Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the fourth sector. You are joined once again by myself and Joe. Luke is too busy. He's got work at the moment in 8 o'clock in the evening, 9 o'clock in the evening. So, fortunately, he won't be joining us again today, but you do have myself and Joe. So, Joe, you watched the race.
I did.
It was hot.
It did look hot, yeah.
Yeah. Did you enjoy it?
I again, it is a little bit like Baku. We thought it was going to be a bit of a procession at one point, but safety cars, two virtual safety cars and a normal safety car, and it kept things interesting. There was a mixed up grid as well, which obviously we're going to touch on qualifying very briefly, and it was one of those Grand Prix. I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing for this race. I really was excited. And I can't say it maybe delivered on the excitement that I had, but I think I'd again kind of got myself hyped that Alonso was dive bombing Max in turn one, which he unfortunately wasn't able to do. So at the start of the weekend, obviously we have. Tell you one thing quickly.
Yeah.
You mentioned multiple Canadian Grand Prix as like some of your favourite ever.
Yeah.
It's a bloody brilliant track, isn't it?
There's been some actual legendary ones and you don't realise. And then, it's just had some great moments.
It's such a good track. I really felt the flow of it, like really.
Yeah, it's just something about Canada. It's not often you get a bad Canadian Grand Prix. And I think obviously they seem to have fairly unpredictable weather as well, which always adds a little flavour into it. I mean, I don't know if you saw I think it was Thursday when the teams were arriving, the pit lane was flooded. But then by the time Sunday comes around, it's bone dry.
Anything.
So,
it's
Canada is typically a really good race, but sometimes they don't live up on the hype. And today yesterday I wouldn't say it didn't live up to the hype. I think it was a good race. I just compared to those in the past, maybe didn't quite match them heights. But,
if Verstappen wasn't that fast, it would have been a great race.
Yeah, geezer, he's unhinged, mate. It's probably because they turned him up in the pit stop in the pit room and turned Checo's hydraulics off.
Yeah. Helmut Marko has the power to do that.
Yeah. It's two buttons.
For anyone that can't tell, very, very sarcastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just in case you didn't notice. Anyway, Saturday. As I said in our last podcast, sometimes there's nothing really to say about qualifying. I think there's a decent amount to, try and dissect very briefly because obviously the race is the main event. But it goes, when we had a wet quali, mixes up the grid, and we saw that from the start. So Max kept his head. I think we'll just address that very simply. He was in all the craziness and all the things going on, and the top runners faltering slightly. He just found it. Put it together. I think he got pole by like 7/10.
Yeah. I've got it up. 7/10, 6.5 temps.
Yeah.
For Alonso.
So a brilliant job, as he did all weekend, of course. So, but then behind Max, it got a bit crazy.
It did.
Fernando P2.
Off of Sainz as well, because Sainz was P2, and this was Fernando was after the checkered flag, wasn't he?
Yeah. And it was like, it was just so unexpected. You saw he was putting in a good time, but you just expect that he's going to lose it somewhere. But Alonso, even at 40 years old, bit of magic, pops it into P2. And I think the last time Fernando Alonso qualified on the front row, there's 8 drivers on the grid that hadn't even started in Formula One yet. Lando Norris was a child.
It was 10 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it 2012? Was it Brazil? They were saying.
I don't know the exact race, and
it was
2012. Get it wrong, so
it was 2012.
Say it was 2012. But yeah, so that was a terrific performance, and an Alonso Max front row left a lot of mouths watering. Because that had never happened before, and even though it's not maybe the Fernando that of 10 years ago, it was still, we know he still got it from that lap, so it was always going to be interesting. Haas P5, P6, Mick Schumacher into Q3 and putting in a great performance. He was P2 at one point.
or
Yeah.
P3.
Yeah. No, I sent a picture to the group chat when he was P2. I was just like, boys, this is gas. And car seemed to go really well in the wet.
Yeah, that was, and obviously we've seen over the course of the season that there is particular situations that car has pace. I think it's easy to forget, obviously, the P5 in Bahrain, and it's easy to forget that Magnussen beat Hamilton outright in Saudi Arabia. He overtook him, and that has got pace. It's just losing it very quickly due to the limited upgrades and stuff. And of course, the Ferrari engine has not been helping. But yeah, so that was really cool to see when you talk about a mixed grid, and people always say like it would be cool to do something like that, and they got it. Russell qualified P8 after trying to run on the slicks, and Jenson Button said in the pre-race that it was the angriest he's ever been at George Russell because he tried to gamble on the slicks, didn't work, spun off at the turn 2.
Well, did you see I wouldn't say it was an argument, but the sort of exchange between Danica Patrick and Jenson Button?
No, I don't think I did.
So she was just like, I think he was brave. And Jenson Button was just like, wasn't brave, it was silly kind of thing.
But then ironically...
I don't think it was brave, it was silly.
I do remember because later on they interviewed George just before the race, and he said he channeled his inner Jenson Button. And Jenson Button was like, no, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Wouldn't have whacked the slicks on in the wet, so...
But I do see his justification of the track's evolving, the grid's mixed up, there's no Charles Leclerc, there's no to worry about, there's no Perez to worry about.
We could say it did no harm right now because we know the end result, but realistically, he's been faster than Hamilton 8 races in a row or whatever. So he probably should have just stayed on the Inters. And
yeah, he maybe could have got himself another podium.
He probably would have qualified above Hamilton, I think. 8 tenths in the middle of Hamilton and Sainz in Q3 there. No. Yeah, 8 tenths. I reckon he could have slotted in there, to be honest.
Yeah,
just based on how he's been performing, and he's quite good in the wet as well. So,
and then just moving down the order, as I just mentioned, Perez crashed out in Q2, and there was the iconic images of him. They're soon to be iconic. Obviously, they're very fresh, but him going through what looks like a jungle to get back to the pits.
The bush.
And it's just not a place you expect to see a man in a helmet and a race suit, is it? Just in the bushes. And then
it looked like the intro to Jurassic Park or something, didn't it? It was quite...
I don't know what they would call that. Well, I don't know what they would call that film. And then Charles Leclerc, obviously, as expected, took his engine penalties. The original rumor was that he was going to take a 10-place grid drop, but I think he just knew everything, didn't he?
Yeah. So I know they went from having one thing to changing the turbo as well, the MG UK,
yeah,
and I think another 2 parts or whatever.
Yes.
But he's still didn't he still started in front of Tsunoda?
Yeah, Tsunoda was the only one that started behind him, who also took some engine penalties, I think. So yeah, that was qualifying. It was nice and mixed up, and we had a proper race on our hands. So as we always do here at the fourth sector, we like to go sort of in team order. And for the last few races, we've been doing Red Bull and Ferrari as a duo because they've kind of just left everyone else for dead. But you can attribute it a lot to the safety cars and stuff, but Max was made to work a lot more than more or less anyone thought he would yesterday afternoon.
Yeah.
And what did you make of his performance? Another great win.
I mean, you can't say anything negative about it, can you really? Pole position, led near enough every session all weekend. Off the line. The only time he wasn't leading the race was when Sainz went in front of him and when he didn't pit under VSC, right?
Yeah.
And flawless, and then Sainz couldn't get past him. So
yeah, it was a brilliant performance. He's the first driver to top practice 1 and go on to win the race this season. So that was a fun little stat that I heard. And yeah, the lights. Do you notice how quickly the lights went out?
Yeah, we didn't even get a full-on Crofty and it's lights out and away we go.
Didn't have a chance. It was just, and Max Verstappen's got away well. Bloody hell, shit. The camera hadn't even gone to the grid. It was like doing all these like overhead pan shots. And I think it caught absolutely everyone out a little bit. But there was, it's weird because I don't think there was ever like real trouble for Max. Even at the end when Sainz, he didn't break the DRS with Sainz, but there was never a point where I don't think Max ever went offline in that whole run.
I think he broke it once, and it was really weird that Sainz actually managed to get back in it.
Yeah,
because you didn't know where he was going to make up the lap time on him, did you? It just seemed like he had an answer for every part of the track, Max. And where he could pull away.
Yeah, he didn't go wide. He didn't put a tyre wrong. He didn't have a little moment. So no matter how close Sainz got, it never really felt like he was going to flap. And I was saying to you just before we went live that I think the current Max Verstappen we're seeing, which is, as Christian Horner described in his exact words, saying that he's in the form of his life. That's coming a year after winning a brilliant World Championship last year. I think this is Max Verstappen is a result of the battle last year. I think he's just a more complete driver, and we're looking at a potential record breaker here. This guy, if you think at 24 years old that Max is, he's won 20. That was his 25th race win, I believe.
Puts him in 8th place, I think, of all time, doesn't he?
Of all time at 24, and he, as it stands, is well on his way to a second championship, back-to-back championships. Now, a lot can change in Formula One. Alonso was the youngest ever winner of a Formula One world title when he won his first one, as was Vettel. And unfortunately, even with years of dominance like Red Bull had or Renault had, they don't always last forever. So obviously, it will take a lot to break the 100 wins and the 91 and the 7 world championships and stuff, but he's going the fucking right way about it at the moment. And bearing in mind these regulations are around until 2026, there is no
Red Bull are actually just getting better, aren't they, as well? And we can bring other cars into play, but at the minute they're, as fast as this car is basically allowed to go, right? It looks like.
Yeah.
And Ferrari are almost there. It's as fast as the Red Bull on certain tracks, but I think overall with the reliability issues, which both cars have, obviously.
Yeah, as we've seen, yeah.
But I think that Red Bull is in for a good couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, however you see Formula One, it's very hard to disagree with that. I'll be honest. I think it surprised me if anyone was to disagree with us there. So I just wanted to, I think we don't give Max a lot of coverage on this. Not obviously, I know I'm not his biggest fan, but I think also because he's been so dominant in these races, it's not the main talking point in a lot of these races at the moment.
He's also just a lot more likable this year as well, which means there's less discourse around him. There's less complaints to make around how he carries himself, because he's just not had anything to moan about. So he's not moaned and shouted and sworn about things. And he's annoyingly, he's actually a lot more likable this season. Yeah.
So it's just, sometimes you have to say fair play. I of course I don't want him to break some of these records, but I would be a liar if I didn't say that, wow, this guy has all the potential to go on to be an all-time great if he's not already. But it's just, he's really, the way he drove today and in Baku is just, this is a Max this is a more complete Max.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side of the garage, it's just been a bit of a weekend to forget. Checo, who coming into Baku, particularly after out qualifying Max, we were talking about how he was very much in title contention, and he still is. But
he's still P2.
But it's just the worst time to lose that momentum, because I think there was every chance that coming into this weekend, we would be talking about like a really close fight between the two Red Bulls.
Well, I mean, when we looked at the predictions that we made last week, me and Luke both predicted last week that Perez was either going to be on pole that I predicted or winning the race, which Luke predicted. But a mistake in qualifying in Q2, going into the Tech Pro barrier, get it stuck, wedged. He couldn't get out of there, which I thought was a shame to get it wedged under the barrier. That's like,
how's your luck, man?
Yeah, no one wants to see that. Like, come on. It looked like it was probably fine as well, the car, didn't it? Like,
it didn't look like nothing. It didn't look like there was any damage, from like the tires back. It was fine.
Yeah,
it was just front nose.
The wing was jammed under, and then I think it ended up being pulled off, didn't it, by the barrier when they actually got it out. But yeah, I mean, he'd had sort of two or three races where he was very much either better or on par with Max. So shame.
So yeah, it is a shame, but hopefully we'll see Checo come back and come back very strong. I still think he can have a really good year, but
transmission failure, wasn't it?
I think Christian Horner said that it was to do with his gearbox. Now, as further than that, technicalities I don't really have for you, but we said that he had to drive himself into contention because Max will obviously be the clear favourite. He was doing that. He got unlucky. Let's hope he can do that again. If he did it once, he could do it again. He just needs to get a run of results. But it was an unlucky day for Checo. But that Red Bull, as we say, have got some good years ahead of them, and he's in the plans for at least the next 2 years. So
yeah,
sure, there's plenty more to come from him. So Red Bull, yeah, they're looking tough to beat, but we'll see, because their main rivals, Ferrari, they still have pace, and
the car was definitely there, wasn't it? It was definitely the second fastest car all weekend,
without question. And it's weird to think that Red Bull have won the last 6 races, 5 to Max, 1 to Checo, because these Ferraris are matching them so often, but just things are not quite going their way. And I think we can see why. So of course we both got really annoyed when Leclerc stopped and had that really slow stop.
Yeah,
and it was just like, how many times can we see this team just get something wrong at a pivotal moment? Because that, those lost 10 seconds, whatever, that could be the difference at the end of the race.
Well, I think it was an extra sort of 5 or 6 seconds or whatever, but it pulled him out at the back of a train of 4 cars, all with DRS on each other as well.
Yeah, it was the Albon train, wasn't it?
Oh, and it just meant that he had nothing. I mean, he took ages. I can't remember who he had to get past first.
Was it Norris?
No, I think it might have been Tsunoda at the time, maybe.
Yeah, it was just he had to clear like.
No, it was Zhou. It was Zhou. I think it was Zhou that he wanted to get past, or Albon to get past at one point, and he was trying to get past one of them. And if you got past one of them, you get past the other one. And obviously, he did end up clearing, near enough everyone. But yeah, just such a shame that he couldn't do more, because he ended up finishing 8 seconds clear of Ocon.
Yeah, so it really did just. In a day of damage limitation, they tried to damage the damage limitation. It's just very frustrating to see. But they got some calls right with Sainz. They said to him, your pit window's opening, obviously, and got him nice and close to Max with the safety car. And, they got him right, and he had a really good day, didn't he, Carlos Sainz? And it feels that after a bit of a period of being a driver that you would consider in no man's land, obviously he had his struggles. I thought he drove brilliantly, and I hope that this is a turning of the corner. I think we all do a little bit, because it would be nice to see him winning races and being competitive, which he's not really been that for the last few. I don't know if it's what he's had wrong, but he kept Max honest all the way and finished under a second behind them at the finish line.
Yeah, no, very, very good performance from him. I think if you just look at the times, he was 3 seconds off Russell, right? 3 seconds off Russell, and we'd say Russell had a good race. Do you know what I mean? You'd say Russell had a good race. Leclerc was 3 seconds behind him after starting, 10 places back, 11 places back. And yeah, he drove brilliantly. So I'm gutted for Leclerc, to be honest, because, realistically, he probably could have been on the podium.
Could have been. I remember Lewis under the safety car was asking the team about Leclerc. That was who he was worried about. He was saying, like, what tyres is he on? How close is he to me? is he going to catch me before the end of the race? So they knew that podium was going to be under threat. If it was going to be under threat by anyone, it's going to be.
Well, it was when Fernando was in P2 or P3, and Leclerc, I think at the time, was in about P14. They were talking about the fact that they were racing Leclerc.
Yeah.
And there's 11 places in the middle, and you just knew that. I mean, he could have worked through the pack a little bit quicker, but I don't know, for some reason, the Ferrari didn't seem to have the straight line speed that we've seen it at some tracks. Like Baku, I thought it was actually really, really fast in a straight line. It didn't seem that much in Canada.
No, I don't know if it's just like the setups, they'll run a bit more downforce, or whether they ran, with the track speed, the track's more narrow at Canada. I don't know, but it's an interesting place for Ferrari now, because they know that they're the second best car, and they're also the best car in many ways. Let's not forget that, they've whilst Red Bull have won the last 5, they've out-qualified them in 5 of the last 6 or whatever. So it's just putting it together, which they did at the start of the season. And I think they need to just get the rust off, win a race, and get some momentum back.
But the 1 lap pace is class, right? The 1 lap pace is class, but race pace, I mean, and strategy-wise, they've just not got what Red Bull have, I don't think, have they?
No, unfortunately not. And obviously Red Bull have been there and done that more recently than Ferrari in terms of like the leading the races and the strategy. And I think that's where Ferrari are almost relearning how to win. It's a team that's got winning in their DNA, and it seems like they've forgotten how to do it a little bit because of recent years. They've forgotten how to get themselves and keep themselves in these positions. So,
but the annoying thing is the fact that they haven't been as competitive in recent years was working up to these regulation changes, and it really looked like they've nailed it, and they have, haven't they? Really, they've got, as we've said, probably the fastest car at 1 lap pace. They've nailed it to a certain extent, but they haven't managed to build up that experience in the meantime of managing the race properly.
And that's just going back to the point about like Max's potential dominance. That's where we can hope that, even if Ferrari are to go and lose it this year, and Red Bull fairly comfortably go and win it, as they've won the last 6 races, so it's hard to say otherwise. Ferrari will take a lot from this year, and maybe there is going to be a challenge to that dominance in terms of Ferrari are only going to get better, hopefully. And of course, Mercedes, who are about to come on to, will potentially improve. So there is every chance that it's not going to be a complete procession, as we've used a lot recently. But so Ferrari, they're still searching for it, and I'm sure they're going to find it. But just, can you find it soon, please, Ferrari? Because I really want to see a different car at the front. Thanks.
Cheers
for that. And speaking of different cars at the front, there's one car that I really hope is at the front, and I really hope it's in 2 weeks, and that is a Mercedes. They race really well. Again, another 3-4, but this time inverted. Lewis was P3 and Russell was P4. You can't say it wasn't like a massively busy race. The biggest talking point is, of course, though, that they didn't look like they were getting left for dead as much.
Not until right at the end, and then you thought, oh, fuck me.
Yeah, but if those two, the front, were pushing each other along at the same pace. But I don't know. I just, you thought, they're going to get caught in no man's land as always. I think Russell probably enjoyed. I reckon Russell qualified in P8 on purpose so he'd see someone on Sunday. If I'm completely honest, that's why he did it. He's just so bored.
He's like, oh, fuck it, whack the slicks on. At least I get to do some racing rather than just going for a really fast Sunday drive for 70 laps.
Oh, mate. So, a great job from George, by the way, coming from P8 to P4. It's no mean feat. I mean, whichever cars are in front of him, at the end of the day, you have to put the car there. Great job. Lewis's pace was really good, and Red Bull even came onto the radio and said, Max, just to let you know, not just signs, like Mercedes have got good pace as well. Yeah. And when they all changed for that, obviously they went. I think Lewis got a pit under the first virtual safety car. Russell got one under the second one, and then Lewis And Russell pitted under the final safety car, maybe?
Yeah, they double stacked, but they didn't fuck it.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. And a stat that we were going to say last week, but we didn't. And thank the heavens that George Russell finished, because we can say it this week, is George Russell was the only driver on the F1 grid this year to finish every single lap of the Formula One calendar, which is a really cool statistic.
Only driver to get points in every race, and he's been in the top 5 in every single race this season.
He really is having actually quite a terrific little season. And it's a shame for him in a way that it's not closer elsewhere, because there's just, like Luke said, he's undoubtedly in the conversation for driver of the year so far, but unfortunately he's not going to probably win it. But yeah, he's been really good. Lewis, who said, I think he said in an interview, like, I've come P4 and P3 in the last 2 races. Like, finally, we're getting some consistency. He seemed, for a guy that's won 103 races, 8 world titles, for winning all of this stuff, he seems so happy to qualify 4th, and equally just as happy to be on the podium.
After on the Friday, was it Friday or Saturday that they caught him before the cameras were rolling, when they were rolling? And I think he knew they were rolling.
Probably.
Saying, this car's just so terrible to drive, man.
Yeah,
it's the worst car I've ever driven. And I was just like...
And the Oscar goes to... Yeah, he was really in the bin on Friday. And I know they've said that they were trying stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
They love to say that, don't they?
Yeah. Well, Hamilton, this is an article I've got here in front of me. Is Hamilton urges, this is on Sky Sports, Hamilton urges Mercedes to do less experimenting on race weekends. Lewis Hamilton hopes Mercedes will be more cautious on doing too many experiments on race weekends after claiming his second podium of the season in Canada. So I'm wondering if they went back to the traditional setup that George has been running, and he got that podium and he thought, oh, mate, let me just have a couple of races before you put me on these wacky setups again. I don't know. But Mercedes, according to Christian Horner now, so I said that it was just the TikTokers that are saying this, but Christian Horner did say in his post-race interview that he heard Mercedes were bringing upgrades, and possibly Ferrari as well. So
to Canada?
To Silverstone. So we could have a race on our hands, and it could be a 3-way fight. And it really, you wouldn't doubt if Mercedes can find half a second in lap time, which is a lot. They will be right at the front and fighting for it, but I don't know what upgrades they're going to bring, and it's really going to be interesting to see.
Well, we'll be there.
We will be there, and it will be interesting to see in real life. And Lewis v Max at Cops again.
Did you see Max imitating the porpoising?
No, I don't think I did. Was it
when,
in the cool down?
Yeah, no. It was in the press conference when they were asked about the porpoising and kind of what's going to happen at Silverstone. He said, Lewis said, it's going to be interesting at Cops, and then you saw Max in the seat next to him going.
That's quite funny, because Lewis also on his social media posted himself playing Ayrton Senna's Monaco 2 on a Sega Mega Drive.
Yeah.
And it caused a bit of buzz around like the media of the paddock. Apparently everyone was playing it in the media room before all the drivers come out. Anyway, they asked Lewis about it, and he said, I've just been playing it a little bit, like it's just a bit of fun. See if anyone could beat my time, and just like sort of classic spiel. And then Max asked him, is there any porpoising on that game? So they seem to be getting on all right, really.
No, and in the cool down room, as we said, they were chilling. It seemed, they seem all right, don't they? Which is nice, which is really nice.
So we'll see. Mercedes, are they in the fight, or is this another? This was meant to be a track they were going to be terrible at. It was meant to be, and they wasn't. So that makes me think of a track where they're meant to be good at, high speeds and fast corners, Silverstone. We'll see.
See how much they're just lying through their teeth.
Yeah, they get me a lot with that because I believe it every time. But yeah, so we could have a three-way, but we're not sure just yet. Also, the illusion of the cool down room's been slightly ruined for me.
Oh, mate, I can't believe you said that. There's no point saying it, is there?
It's
Didn't have to ruin it.
It's basically pre-recorded. I was so upset.
You thought you were live, didn't you? You thought this is what's happening right now in the cool down room. It's probably about a minute ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I couldn't believe it. So anyone that's listening and didn't know this, the cool down room, they put a minute delay on in case anyone swears. It's just a swear word, man.
Yeah, grow the fuck up.
Yeah, bitch. And my final comment as we move on from Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, and this podcast probably gains a bit of pace because there's less to say the lower down we go. The last time we had this podium of Hamilton, Verstappen, and Sainz.
Abu Dhabi
2021. So a little bit of PTSD for myself and any other Lewis fans. I did a lot of screaming into the pillow that day, and that was just the final one, the final scream.
Every time you saw Lewis in the back of an Alpine.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, mate, I just sick of
Please be Ocon. Please be Ocon. Please be Ocon.
He went up, it all shuffled around. It said Alonso, Hamilton, and I said, and then as Mick Schumacher went out, that was when Hamilton ended up just back behind Alonso. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. But Alpine, I don't know what to make of their race because on paper, there's 2 points to it. First of all, we've said they're the most 7th and 10th place finishing team of all time.
Yeah.
And they finished 6th and 9th. So they kind of maybe look like a dick in that way. They finished 6th and 9th, which is obviously, you think Alpine would take that before the weekend, but considering the circumstances, I kind of feel like they should be disappointed with that. What did you make of their race?
Well, to be fair, okay. What I will say is the cars that come up and beat Fernando were going to beat Fernando in my head because you're talking a Ferrari, 2 Mercedes, and before he got his penalty, a Ferrari, 2 Mercedes. Who else would have finished? A Ferrari, 2 Mercedes, and an Alfa Romeo and 2 Alfa Romeos. But before he got his penalty, so it would have been, yeah.
So he's P7 before the penalty, yeah.
So it would have been his teammate, which shouldn't have beat him, and then a Ferrari and 2 Mercedes, and 2 Ferraris and 2 Mercedes. So it's like, you can't really be too pissed off that he didn't finish in 2nd place because I didn't think the car, it didn't look like the car was there anyway, did it really? Like,
not overly. The only confusion I had is there was 2 virtual safety cars to which Alonso pitted under neither. And
yeah, that was rogue.
I thought that was very bold. And I don't know if they were banking on a full safety car either time, or whether they're banking on a third one coming a lot earlier than it did. But
yeah, weird.
That felt really badly managed. Yeah. Because we sit at home with no data. I sit there and I text you and I watch it. That's all the data I have. And to me, it seemed so obvious, particularly when the second one came out. It was like, right, you got a second chance here. You should have done it on the first one. And they didn't do it. So
I think Ocon ran an all right race, all things considered, starting 7th, finishing 6th.
Yeah, he kind of just. It was a very under the radar kind of race. You didn't see him doing, any crazy moves, but
no, he was just getting past because he only made one pass. So he just
the
only other things that happened were people going past him to get to the front, kind of thing.
Pretty much. So he dealt with it well. I think he made his tyres last, and then obviously got ahead of Alonso, who did have engine trouble late on. Although apparently, I wish I'd screenshot this and sent this to you, unless you sent it to me. Alonso reckons if he didn't have engine troubles, he would have finished above Lewis.
I didn't send that to you because it sounds like absolute bollocks.
Sounds like bollocks, doesn't it? And if he did say that, I mean, come on, Fernando. You are good, but if to finish above Lewis, you also would have had to finish above Russell and Leclerc. And
it's just not happening, is it?
And you didn't. So I don't know.
You're lying.
You're lying. You're wrong. You're wrong, I'm afraid, pal. But great to see Alonso up there and in the thick of it. And I think it was kind of sad because I know it's realistic for Alonso to say my race is with the Hamiltons and the Leclercs because of where they were. But I wish they'd just raced it at face value and said, we're P2. Let's try and get P2. Let's not fucking race the guys in P5, P6. Let's just race for P2. Let's just do it. Let's just take it at face value.
As I said, I'm pretty sure he was like in 4th or something when he said he's racing Leclerc, who was in 14th at the time.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, like, oh, come on. Like,
dream a little bigger, you know? Just go for it, man.
And at that point, he was just dropping down the order because of his tyres. And then when he came in, it was just like, you're not in the race anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's a bittersweet one for sure. But, you know, they'll take some great points again. And, you know, I don't fully underestimate them, even coming 4th in the constructors. Really,
I think they're definitely a real fight with McLaren. 100%.
Absolutely, yeah.
I actually don't count Alfa Romeo out of that fight either, even though they've got Zhou Guanyu, who's slightly inexperienced. Without the engine troubles he's had a pretty good season, and he's had some shit luck recently, hasn't he? But great performance yesterday. I'd say don't count Alfa Romeo out of that fight either. I think that could well be a 3-horse fight for P4.
There's a lot of holes in McLaren's game at the moment. It's not like last year where when they're on it, they're undoubtedly on it. Like, they're very beatable. You know, even Ricciardo, who didn't have the engine change that Lando had, got overtaken by Lance Stroll at the end for 10th place. So, you know, I can't count them out at all. And I think Alpine, with their consistent scoring, might beat McLaren with their sort of, inconsistent, essentially, where they're going to get 20 points one week and then no points the next. That might be their undoing. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, it is weird to see him not getting points after a weekend, isn't it? Like, it's just weird.
And it is sort of, you know, we're sort of moving on to like Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin now, and it is just like a big midfield cluster at the moment. You know, Alfa, as we said, they had a great day. Strategy-wise, they got it right under the virtual safety cars. Both drivers in the points. And I have to say, personally, really think Guan Yu Zhou is starting to get comfortable in this car a little bit more.
I think it really good. I think he was putting up a very, very good fight against some faster cars that were trying to pass him. Very impressed, and he stuck to the back of Bottas really well as well. So,
and Bottas only got ahead of him because of the safety car pit stop. Otherwise, when you show,
it was only a second. He was only a second behind him, to be fair.
So he just sort of shadowed him home, and there was no doubt that probably over the course of the weekend, Zhou, for the second weekend running, had the pace on Bottas, who's been having a, by their standards, an absolutely terrific season. He's got himself in P8 in the driver's standings with 46 points. So Guan Yu Zhou, as you know, bearing in mind he's a rookie, obviously it's early doors with his progress, but
very good rookie season as of late standards.
Yeah, so if he starts,
what we've had in the last few years, it's a very good rookie season.
Absolutely. So if he starts getting a couple more points under his belt, which I really believe he's going to go and do for the way he's driven in the last couple of weeks, we could see him. If he can, because the way Haas are sliding and stuff, he could easily finish 12th or 11th in the championship easily. Without bearing in mind Bottas is 12th. Yeah, I can see that happening. So it's a good race from them, but not too much to say because again they kind of just plodded along together. Really, they held hands. Aston Martin, Stroll come home in P10. I didn't realise how piss poor Lance Stroll's run of results have been for the last 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah,
that is a driver that would be under immense pressure if anyone else on that grid is his team boss.
Yeah, he's not had a good set of results.
No, and I think that Aston Martin had a bit more pace than what they qualified. I think the wet shook it up. They look like they had decent dry pace in practice.
Yeah, I said the green ball seemed better in the wet, in the dry. Sorry.
Yeah, they did, and I think we saw them fairly high flying through practice and stuff. So it was a bit strange to see them fall off so bad. But Stroll pulled it back to P10, and I think Seb come home in P12. I think I haven't.
Yeah, just after Danny, only a second after Danny.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a nothing race for them again. But Stroll in his home race gets a point from where did Stroll qualify again? Please remind me.
He started all the way down in 17th. So
yeah, fair play for someone who's really not been at it for the last few races.
And he had a cool helmet on, didn't he?
I actually didn't take any notice of his
He
helmet.
had like a white helmet on with the red maple leaf for the Canadian flag. I thought it looked quite
It's
cool.
pretty cool. It's like quite simplistic, pretty cool.
Yeah,
actually.
no, I liked it.
Of course, next is the one we were just sort of discussing briefly anyway, which is McLaren. A nothing weekend for them, nothing in points, nothing to report, nothing they'll ever want to remember about this race. They've actually had the fastest pit stop quite a few times this season. I can actually probably very quickly look at this.
Did they manage it over the weekend, or did Alpine in the end?
Let me tell you. Let me click on that.
Alpine either got it in Baku or in Canada.
Right, last weekend.
By the way, hilarious double header, isn't that?
Azerbaijan and Canada. Yeah, right. They've got a bunch of people in suits with a map, sat around a table with a map, and they've gone, yeah, that's it.
This one, and then all the way to that one in 3 days. I think that's doable.
Yeah, I don't know who's sanctioned that. Well, McLaren have had the fastest pit stop twice this year, so it wasn't as many as I thought. It doesn't say who did it in Azerbaijan yet on the Sky Sports website.
Okay.
But yeah,
but Lando Norris's pit stop was not the fastest pit stop.
That was, yeah. So where I was going with that is a team that clearly have the potential to be, did a very un-McLaren-like thing all round. Put on 2 different sets of tyres, just couldn't work it out. Just got it wrong.
They must have whacked one of Danny's old tyres on his car.
I don't even know what happened. Like,
it was a joke because he was already slow because Danny had a slow stop.
Yeah.
And so he had to slow down to come in. He come in and you saw, I think it was a yellow going on the front left and a white going on the front right. And I was thinking, uh-oh.
Who's let that happen? And of course, they noticed it in time to get it changed, but it just meant he sat stationary for longer with an engine that's already 0.3 a lap slower. Realistically, there was actually probably no chance Lando got any points this weekend anyway.
Yeah.
And, you know, if Ricciardo's going to finish ahead of Lando like that without even getting any points, I don't know if he can boast too much there.
He outperformed him this weekend, so he's probably safe for that seat now, so all good.
Seat saved. But yeah, Danny Rick, again, fairly quiet afternoon. Ran in the points for decent parts of the race, but lost out to Lance Stroll at the end, which they've both got Mercedes engines, and that's just outright pace, isn't it, really? So that's just unlucky. And I do wonder maybe if the safety car hadn't come out, but it's always buts and maybes, really.
Also, I'm not being funny, but apart from Carlos Sainz and Verstappen, did everyone get every single pass done under DRS? It was so powerful, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's always, I mean, it's powerful everywhere. That's what it's there for, is to get these.
It's those 2 zones straight in a row. So you pull up to them in the first zone, and then on the pit straight, you just, if you've got enough time, obviously you pass it. It just seemed really, really, really strong.
Yeah, but I guess they knew that in other areas it was going to be, you know, a long period of following. Obviously, we did have the back DRS straight as well, where only a couple of moves were done. Wasn't a very popular overtaking spot, but it was just a nothing for McLaren, and they're going to want to come back a lot stronger coming into Silverstone. And obviously, Lando will be someone that a lot of people are going to keep an eye on for that race. So let's hope that they've sorted out whatever's happened there.
Yeah,
and just put this weekend behind them. Williams, I'm finding it really hard to talk about Williams at the moment because they don't really get involved in anything, do they? Albon's input to the race was giving everyone DRS.
Yeah. He helped everyone out get past him, didn't he?
The Albon train, yeah. He was just like, you want DRS? You want DRS? Everyone gets DRS.
Fucking Oprah.
Yeah, the Oprah of Formula One giving out DRS. And Latifi, the most consistent driver on the grid, came
P16.
P16. Who would have thought?
Fucking loves a P16.
At least he has some consistency about him.
Do you want to do our new segment?
I was going to do it after. We could do it now because we're talking about it.
Talking about Latifi.
It's the Canadian Catastrophe of the week.
I will work
on the jingle, but we've noticed a pattern this season, Joe and I, and it's that at least one Canadian driver likes to make a plonker of themselves at least once every weekend.
Or both of them.
Or both, most commonly both of them. But I'm trying to be very polite in this segment, so I'm not going to say it like that. They occasionally do some bad stuff. We here at the Fourth Sector felt that we should start picking up on these incidents and displaying them for you right here on YouTube and TikTok. So this week, at his home Grand Prix, killing Nicholas Latifi ran over one of the, one of the native animals of Canada. And he just straight up flattened a groundhog.
Yeah, it was brutal, wasn't it? Because he was going quite fast.
I just thought of all the drivers on that grid, it just had to be him, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think it did affect his pace as well, which is quite funny because I think he had to go in for a wing. This is an FP3.
Yeah, he had to get his wing changed. Yeah,
he had to get a front wing change, which is like brutal, wasn't it? Like,
did you see it? Was it on the camera? Was it his one that it like splattered onto the camera? It might have been a different one.
I think it was his camera, and you saw it.
Yeah, man, that is
wasn't his helmet. It wasn't his helmet cam because that would be really gruesome. I think it was the sort of the T-bar camera.
The T-bar, yeah, it was.
I'm
just saying, I feel that next time next time they race in Canada, I feel he should have a commemorative helmet for this groundhog.
With a groundhog on it.
With a groundhog on it, just to pay his respects. But yeah, by the Canadian standards, this was actually a fairly incident-free weekend, but that he still managed to hit an animal, and that doesn't happen very often. So,
am I being thick, or why on earth did Kevin Magnussen end up finishing behind him? Because prior to the safety car, at one point he was 50 seconds behind the last person. I'm
not too sure, actually.
I'm not sure what happened to Magnussen because it must have been after the safety car that this happened, this swap. But I don't know what happened to Magnussen. But yeah, at one point he was 50 seconds behind everyone else on track. And I was messaging the group chat saying I'm really not sure why Williams are running two cars because it did look absolutely hilarious. So yeah, really interesting one from Latifi. And then they fucked his pit stop as well.
Oh, yeah, that's Canadian Catastrophe number 2 of the week. Is they said, oh, mate, you're not going to come 16th if you keep going this fast. Stay here for a bit. Let's fuck his pit stop. So,
oh my God. When there's a budget cap as well, he's wasting petrol.
You see the price of petrol at the moment, mate. Jesus. Yeah, there was some tactics in there from Williams for sure. They're trying to. So there is murmurs that our wonderful Canadian Nicholas Latifi could be replaced for Silverstone by Oscar Piastri. Frankly, there is such little traction on these rumors at the moment that I can't imagine it's anything more than gossip. I can't.
That would get me so hard though.
I think Red Bull. Yeah, I hope for Piastri's sake. I think Red Bull have set a precedent of like these mid-season sackings, but they're not actually that common. I think contractually, especially with a team like Williams that aren't well endowed with money and will be able to just pay for someone's silence, that would be just it's probably a heavy lawsuit for them unless they've got some breakage clauses in there, but I'm not sure. So we'll see. Hopefully we could see Latifi for the rest of the season, mostly on a selfish standpoint, so that we can continue to do Canadian Catastrophe of the week.
Otherwise, we're really banking on Lance Stroll having some stinkers, aren't we?
Which, to be fair, yeah, AlphaTauri, you wouldn't think that AlphaTauri 1 week ago in Baku were running P5 and P6 before Yuki's incident. Obviously, that took him out of the points. But yeah, this was a team that looked like they had found their feet this year, and then they qualified poorly, didn't make it up in the race, didn't really offer anything worth noting other than Yuki caused the safety car that made the race interesting. So
cheers, mate.
Thanks, Yuki. Proper silly from him, literally straight out of the pits and into the wall. It didn't even look like he turned the wheel. It just locked up.
No, yeah, I think he went on the gas a bit too heavy, a bit too quickly, didn't he? And as you say, he wasn't even turning at the time, and he just went straight on.
Yeah, and Gasly complaining on the team radio, saying that it was too slow in the straights, which, of course, as we said, with the power of DRS in this race, being slow on the straights was kind of peak bad.
What's kind of mad is he finished a second behind Albon, who finished half a second behind Vettel, who finished a second behind Ricciardo, who finished 5 seconds behind Lance Stroll. So that train didn't help anyone, did it?
No, it became the Danny Rick train at the end then.
Yeah.
No, no one could get past each other because everyone had DRS. So, it's just again, same as McLaren. It's a weekend to forget for AlphaTauri. But it's nice for teams like Williams because they get to be ahead of someone. And then Haas, who I mentioned
I'm still angry.
Slowly falling their way back down to the bottom of the grid, and it's because of things like this, really. There's elements of bad luck, of course there is.
There's elements of mistakes as well on the driver's part sometimes.
Yeah, but when you qualify P5 and P6, it's really hard to fathom that. Like, I think whatever race car you're in, if you qualify P5 and P6, to come P17 and a DNF really takes some doing. And they did it. Again, it's bad luck. K-Mag, Hamilton actually got a good start. But then because of the line, he kind of had to pull back. And as he pulled back, gave Magnussen a chance to get in there. They were side by side for a bit. And it was only through, I think, 3 and 4, 3, 4 and 5, where Magnussen had to back off. Now, in backing off, he's just clipped Lewis's car.
Yeah.
And Lewis was lucky not to get a puncture, by the way. But
Very lucky, yeah.
Magnussen's damaged his front wing, and they told him on the radio, everything's fine. It looks just cosmetic. But that thing was flapping around.
He got flags, didn't he?
He got black and orange flags, which means he had to box to change his wing. And this was a very early phase in the Grand Prix. So this meant that there was no time to open up any gaps. He was just straight to the back of the grid. And then he switched. I think he switched to the hard tyres, and he spent 56 laps on those hard tyres. He didn't pit again. And that might be why he came P17, because he probably backed the field up, and he was on 50 lap bowl tyres, and the Latifi probably got past him, and the TV directors didn't show us. So unlucky for Magnussen, he was running fine. And then, of course, my wild card this week, Mick to finally get points. The man qualified P6. I thought, this is the banker. This is the one that couldn't lose.
Wasn't he in fucking P7 as well when his car died? Oh.
And then his car gave way. And I don't know what he said on the radio because it was a very long beep. But I can imagine it wasn't that. Thanks, everyone, for this great race.
No.
I reckon he was pretty upset.
Yeah, it was looking to be a really, really good weekend. Again, you would have sort of completely understood if he still finished just outside of the points or was racing for the points. But the car looked all right to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really tough pill to swallow because
he did only finish 18 laps though, so let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, I guess.
No. Also true, there was plenty of stuff that happened after that could have contributed either way. But you've got to be in it to win it, or in it to come in the points, and
he wasn't in it.
It would be nice because obviously he had the collisions in Miami and stuff. It would be nice to see him at least finish and say that he got to the end and had a go, rather than, like every week it's like, well, he didn't finish the race, so we'll never know. It'd be nice to know. It'd be nice to have some closure on whether he would have got points or not.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So another unlucky one for Mick. That point will come. I just don't know if it's going to be this decade. He will get one at some point, I'm sure. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was your Canadian Grand Prix.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet, like we always do here, baby. There's a lot of like politics and dynamics within the teams that give us plenty to talk about, even when the race didn't have that much action. So it's nice to sort of reflect on these things. So yeah, I think there's not too much news to discuss. Obviously, there's the stuff about the porpoising. I figured because we've got a non-race week next week, I think we'll just go through that then. So
yeah, that's fine.
I think we'll leave anyone. We're going to leave all like the news and stuff, and we're just going to go on to our final segment of the day. Unless there's anything from you further, Joe.
No, I think I'm all good. I'm all good.
We did really milk that bitch for everything she had, didn't we?
Yeah. We made it sound like an interesting race, really, haven't we?
We've done well. And it's time for Guess the Driver.
Guess the driver.
Woo!
Woo.
Okay, Joe, it is my driver this week.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to fire away with my first fact line for you.
Okay.
This driver was born on the 19th of August, 1987, day after me, but also 10 years before me, making him 34 years old, I believe.
Okay, 34.
And he got one pole position in 184 starts.
34 and one pole position. That's quite specific, isn't it?
It is really specific, but it also then, how would you know this about this person? Do you know what I mean?
So I'm going to pass.
Okay. This driver drove for Williams in 2010. That was his first drive in Formula One, was for Williams. And he took pole position for them that year in Brazil.
Williams. 2010 Williams. Barrichello there in 2010?
He was.
It's not Barrichello, though, is it?
No.
Fuck. Okay. Come on, see if I can get on round 3.
He won the Le Mans 24-hour race in 2015.
Oh, Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, Le Mans.
Yeah. Le Mans. And then the final clue was going to be former teammates include Barrichello, Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, and Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Nico Hulkenberg. Nico Hulkenberg.
Yeah. No, I only recently read actually about him winning Le Mans when Le Mans was on TV last weekend.
Yeah. So
I love it when it's on. It's
I forgot about that pole position in Brazil in 2010. What a brilliant. Yeah, I feel. Oh man, I missed the Hulk. I feel like he was just a nearly man. He just never got the right car at the right time, did he? He was always in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Love the Hulk. Okay, next week is you. Back to you.
Or Luke, if he's here.
Probably you. So everyone, that was the breakdown of the Canadian Grand Prix and all the politics and fun times that surrounded it. Next week is an off week, but it's not for us. We will, of course, bring you some new content in terms of TikTok and YouTube. We'll probably put together a special edition sort of podcast. Maybe we'll try and get someone on to have a chat with us about some of their F1
Silverstone special.
We'll do a Silverstone fucking special, man.
Yeah.
You're damn straight we will. And we will, of course, bring our predictions along with that show because they're always so good.
Yes.
So until then.
To be fair, not far off. Luke got his pole position. I got my winner this week.
Yeah, I got shit all, mate. So it's
Leclerc double and it takes a fucking engine penalty.
At the time, it was not known that he would have the penalty. So
you jinxed it, didn't you?
I need to be given a technicality there, okay? But yeah, thank you all very much for listening. We appreciate you always. Please subscribe if you're on YouTube. Please follow if you're on Spotify. And
Apple Podcasts or
yeah.
I think it goes on Google Podcasts somehow.
Mate, I really should know more about this, but then I do. We're really professional. Look after yourselves, everybody.
Have a great week.
Have a great week.